just easier to tell people you try to kill yourself than saying I like cock.
There is a tagline.
Can we get that
Putting that on my gravestone is absolutely fine. But I think you're right. You know, I think maybe it's easier to talk about that than actually. Incredible. Right.
I remember when I was 14, I was quite lucky because I was going to a counsellor in my school because I went to Brit school, so they had like their built-in counsellors and all that, and they're like, yeah, be yourselves, come out, yeah. And I was in a meeting with the counsellor and I was just talking about all my mental health and like all this, and she just went, have you come out to anyone? I went, no, I've come out to like 2 people. Have you come out to your dad? Like, what? Like, huh? No, I don't want to do that. I was like, well, we'll try it. Maybe that'll help. So I went home. Me and my dad, we had to talk about my mental health and everything because this was the first time he knew that. So on top of being like, oh, by the way, I've tried to do some really horrible things to myself. Oh, God. Oh, and I'm also bi. Huh? What? Yeah. So I thought, oh, God, I'm going to get kicked out. I'm going to be homeless, all that. Just stood up, gave me a big hug, and it was like, you can be whatever you want. I don't care. You're my son. I love you. Like, whatever, however you want to live your life, live it. Just don't do anything stupid.
Yeah. That is utterly that's hilarious. Not hilarious, but that's exactly how I came out to my dad, because I was speaking to my dad first, because my mum, she'd see it on like TV and she was a bit more like, oh, she didn't say, oh, it's not kind of right and all this kind of stuff. And my dad, his half-sister, who was 80 at the time, lived in LA with her girlfriend, so my dad had been around it a bit longer, but that didn't really help me that much. But to your point, I sort of sat him down and I was like, I was drinking too much, I was kind of doing things I kind of shouldn't have been, so I sort of told him all this and then said, by the way, I'm also interested in boys and kind of girls, and then I went to America for 6 months. And then my mum saw it on my MySpace, that shows how old I am, and she said to my dad, what does this bisexual thing mean? And my dad was like, because I was in America at the time, was like, oh yeah, just speak to like him. But for me, that was quite a cathartic thing to do, to be able to speak to my dad, obviously load him up with all the other stuff I've been doing first that was bad. Oh, and by the way, and my dad was like, okay, cool.
Could you just think like, oh, I'll get all this stuff out and then I'll save the big one for later,
that's
and
like
then
a
you
shit
let that one out.
sandwich
It's like, oh.
Yeah, that's so interesting. It's exactly the same for me. So it really is. Yeah, apparently so. Like
I've got it so wrong. It's not
Yeah,
the mothers, it's the dads.
I did the same kind of thing. I sat my parents down and I came out to my parents very late. Like I'm in my very, very late 30s now, and I came out to them about 5-6 years ago or so. And in the conversation that I had with them, I told them about my mental health and that I wasn't in a good place and what I was doing to sort it out. And the counsellor that I had from MindOut was the one who suggested to me, have a sit down with your parents. And going into that conversation, it felt like the weight of the world was on my shoulders. And when I came out of it, a friend of mine said, you look different. Like you feel like you look different, like it came off. But it was the same kind of thing, telling me about my mental health and then kind of slipped in, by the way, I'm gay. And it was kind of, by the way, and it was interesting, like my mum got the sexuality part of it, but my dad got the mental health part of it. So it was a really interesting kind of split between them. Like one understood one more and one understood the other more.
I'm really interested because you all related to the mental health journey that you had before coming out, and you referred to the fact that you kind of put that out there on the plate before you came out to your parents, and you've all done that, totally isolated experiences. So why do you think that is? Why do you think that it's maybe more easy to lead with the mental health stuff when actually, if you think 20-30 years ago, that wasn't even on the table, like nobody talked about it? So why is it that we're now in a position where we can open up about mental health, but we still are a bit more reluctant to maybe talk about our sexuality or gender identity?
It's just easier to tell people you try to kill yourself than saying I like cock.
There is a tagline.
Can we get that
Putting that on my gravestone is absolutely fine. But I think you're right. You know, I think maybe it's easy to talk about that than actually.
That's wrong, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Utterly.
It's very broken. That, and you know, you hit the nail on the head. Like when you said about people of a certain generation just don't understand it, kind of thing. They were ingrained to feel that it was wrong. They're ingrained to feel with all these stereotypes, kind of thing, and they're not true. None of them are. No one put anyone in a box and said this is what you have to be.
I am who I am. I'll do what I want. I'm not going to let a word or a person define me. I'm just going to be me, and if they don't like it, bugger off, because there's a whole bloody community who's going to embrace the shit out of me.
because the community is so strong and they're so supportive. And again, 20, 30 years ago, they were quieter. And I thought, less. So to that point, it's like, well, fuck it, I can be myself now.
I think when you're in a particular place or in a particular spiral of mental health, you can feel so alone.
Same thing. It was just, again, it was just pure luck. We were doing like a group therapy thing in the class, and then I just decided, bugger it, I'm just going to tell everyone that I tried to commit suicide once, and I did, and I broke down into tears, and then the therapist just came up to me afterwards. It was like, come with me. We went to her office, and she was like, you're now going to see me 2 times a week, because like you clearly need help. And I was like, all right, oh, fair enough. What does it mean? It means you miss English. Cool. I'm down. Let's do this.
It's a good intervention.
Yeah. I like this. This is great. But yeah, no. So then, just particularly with the therapist I worked with, who was a lovely woman, she just gave me more confidence to be like, speak out more, speak about yourself, and then just being like, oh, you've got mental health issues, you should talk about that more. Oh, okay, cool, who with? Well, me. Oh, fair enough, that's your job. But also people you trust. And I was like, cool, who do I trust? And it really made me think like, all right, who am I confident in, won't ignore me, won't do...
Judgment, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Yeah, it's just who do I know I can trust? And luckily, like same as you, I had at that point a very good wealth of friends who I'm still friends with to this day, who I told about my mental health and also came out to them, and they were just like, all right, fair enough, you're still a dickhead, but we'll love you anyway. And it's like, oh, cheers.
That's not changed.
Yeah.
Unfortunately not, damn it. How long have you guys been going for now?
Oh, so a long time. We started working, we were originally part of Mind.
Yes.
And we kind of branched off slightly, and we did more of our LGBTQ support, so we, hence MindOut. So we kind of still kind of have very good, strong links with Mind and a lot of the other charities around Brighton. But yeah, I think 22 years. If
it's that long?
Yeah, it's a long time. It's been a long time.
As a standalone, as MindOut.
Yeah, it's been a long time. One of our main services we offer is our online support service. So it runs, it's a service anyone can access through our website, and we can signpost, like you were saying, so you can signpost anywhere to direct information to different regions. We're quite experts in the Brighton and Hove and surrounding West Sussex area, but our online support service has got volunteers from all over the country, and it's totally anonymous, so if someone wants to come along, get some advice, get some information, we can pass that along, and then that kind of leads on to a lot of our other services. So if someone needs a specific service, such as counselling, advocacy, wants to join some of our support groups, peer mentoring, things like that, it's a really great way to begin with for our services as well.
If I was to have the sort of tools and the people that I think we have now, God, it would have made so much difference, like, because it was my inner voice that I just had to battle with, and there was no outlet for it. And having, organisations like MindOut, for example, with so much for you to be able to deal with, and kind of help with, is just incredible.
Because we're in the whole younger generation, they like the idea of like, oh, you taught someone. It's like, no, I can just send them a text, and then that'll do it. And it's just like fair, which is good that particularly therapy and like mental health like organisations like yourself have picked up on like, actually this internet is a great tool to get out to everyone. Let's invest into that more. Also see people in person, but we'll invest more time into this because this is actually where it's going to help.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a conversation like this. It can be via a text. It can be, via a video or like any kind of web chat, which I think is great because a lot of people, at the beginning of their journey might not want to have that conversation, or they might just want to be in a group and from the sidelines and observe for like a bit. But you've got that catering for like everybody now.
Our online support service is there straight away. It's instantaneous messages. You're not waiting for someone to email back. Our opening times are most of the afternoon and evening. MindOut is run by a diverse kind of range of people. We're all identifying as LGBTQ in some respect, and we've all had shared mental health experiences. So there's every chance you're going to speak to someone who has self-harmed or has had suicide attempts. You've got that kind of, it's not going to be completely foreign to them. It's going to be someone who understands. It's going to be some empathy. Absolutely.
Compassion is what people need at that stage, isn't it, as well?
It's not someone who's going to be shocked by it. It's someone who's going to go, okay, it's been there.
Or know someone
I
that's
know
been
how
there,
you can feel.
supported
Many things that I think back on, especially in little Perth. I'm from this tiny little town who literally didn't know what gay was until about a year ago, I'm telling you, right? But they have had some amazing Pride moments. I think the best one that we did was, COVID throws everything off, I believe it was last year. Ian McKellen came and led our Pride march. He
Incredible.
came in his just like casual gear, like he wasn't like dressed and suited and booted, and just carried that pride flag and like marched everyone around the city of Perth. And for a community who's not particularly prepared for that type of conversation, like we're quite insular and we're really small and we're still quite out in the sticks. Like, you know, we're not in London, you know, we're not being exposed to that daily. I was so impressed with our community, just being able to get behind it, join the march, ask questions, come into the bar and like partake in that conversation. So that for me is definitely my best memory from Pride.
My kind of in-laws, so my partner's brother's got 3 kids and his other brother has 1, and like when it's the Pride season, like their kids are like 3, 6, 2, and they're rainbows on their faces. And and like one of my best friends, like their daughter is now 8, but it's always been Uncle Mark, and it's sort of like, and like Uncle Anne, and it's like, they're, you know, it's that age, they've just been surrounded by it from like day dot. So Pride for them is just a kind of celebration of love. It's not, you know, same-sex love or anything like that. And I think it's great to see that, like when I see my friends that are celebrating it because they're allies, but their kids have just had it from like from day dot, because they've known me from day dot with my partner, and for them it's just
normal.
It's just it doesn't matter if they're a boy, girl, boy, like or anything like that. It's just kind of, and that's, you know, and that's what I love. To your point, what you said about Pride and seeing people bring their kids, who are straight couples or not part of the community, whatever, but they just go because they believe in that celebration, and I think that's such a nice thing to be able to see.
Also to your point about bringing